All right, now that we are equipped with Kripkean semantics, I think we can really approach this question of what is metaphysical truth right now, right? Okay, so this notion of metaphysical truth is really comes to us directly from Kripke's insight. If you can Google Kripke, who Kripke is. I'm not gonna go over his backstory, okay? But basically, Kripke's insight is basically that there are statements that are necessarily true, right? Even though they are known a priori. A priori. Basically, statements that are true. Why is it true? Because they are true. They can only be known by experience. They can only be known by, say, experiment, right? So, the example I gave you before was water is H2O. How do you know water is H2O? You have to go out in the world to actually discover the atomic structure of water. You can't just be in a room by yourself and pray to Allah or a God to give you the answer. You need to go out in the world to kind of get the answer yourself, right? So to do experiments. So Kripke is saying that there are statements that are true and not just true, but necessary true, and that these statements are known only through empirical means or a priori. A priori means like it's like how a priori means it's really about how we know what we know, and a priori means the way we know it is through experience, right? Before we approach this notion of metaphysical truth, we have to again learn a little bit about the vocabulary. This is the notion of a rigid designator. So, what is a rigid designator? A rigid designator is sort of like a proper name or a natural kind term that refer to the same object in every possible world. So remember we talked about possible world before, so I'm not gonna go over possible world again, but basically is a proper name or a natural kind term. So take for example, if I say the word Aristotle, right? The word or the name Aristotle refers to the person Aristotle. Back in the day, 2,000 years ago, I don't know precisely what year, maybe 2,200 years ago, right? There was a person in the world called Aristotle. So the word, the proper name, refers to that person, right? Or what about another example of a natural kind term would be water, right? Water would be it's sort of like a commodity term, right? So like commodity would be things that have a generic property, very common. If you have one unit of such a commodity here, it's the same identical type of substance over there, right? So when I say water in China, right, it's the same water in America, right? Because water is water, right? So gold is gold, or helium is helium. So helium is a natural kind term. Water is a natural kind term. Um, Atomic, maybe atoms of a certain metal substances, is a natural kind term. So, so the notion of a rigid designator is that you have a name or a natural kind term that refers to the same object in every possible world, right? So there is, my name is Philip, right? So the name Philip refers to the person Philip, me, right, in this world. But the name Philip also refers to the same person in every possible world where I exist, you know. So that's the notion of rigid designator. And I don't think it's trivial to just brush away this definition. Um, yeah, but just another example I think is good. Take the name Saul Kripke, right? It refers to the same person, Kripke, in all possible world where Kripke exists. Yeah. So Saul Kripke is a person in this world, right? And it's true that this name refers to this person, Kripke, but the name Saul Kripke also refers to the person Kripke in all possible world where Kripke exists, right? So yeah, yeah, that's yeah. I think you guys should take a look at this. Do some research on rigid designator. Is pretty kind of hard to get concept, but I hope I explain it enough. Um, so let's take a look at some examples. Uh, I maybe not this example, explicitly, but let's take for example the evening star and the morning star, right? The evening star is equals to the morning star. I know that this is different, wording is different. I use this lecture notes for some other event. So imagine that this is the evening star and this is the morning star, right? There is a sense in which the evening star and the morning star is identical. And the only way you know that they are identical is not by some sort of meditation in your room, figuring out things in your head by yourself. It's really by going out in the world to discover that the evening star is identical to the morning star. And how do we know that? So, so the so the reasoning goes something like this, right? Take the evening star, right? The word the evening star is suppose it's a rigid designator. So, the evening star refers to Venus in our world, right? But the evening star not only is it if the evening star is a rigid designator, it's not just a term that refers to Venus in our world, but it refers to Venus in all possible worlds in which Venus exists, right? So the evening star, right, that it is a rigid designator that refers to Venus in all possible worlds where Venus exists. Similarly, the morning star, again, consider that to be a rigid designator, right? The morning star also refers to the Venus in our world, right? But the morning star also is a term that refers to Venuses in all possible world where Venus exists, right? So that means that since they refer to the same planet, Venus, then the evening star has to be identical to the morning star because it's equivalent to Venus is identical to Venus, right? So that's how you kind of come up to the conclusion, right? Um, so in all possible world where Venus exists, the evening star and the morning star have to be identical. So in other words, the evening star is identical to a morning star in all possible world. And you can say, well, what about worlds where there is no Venus, or what about there is some dispute about what Venus is. Well, in which case we would kind of exclude that possibility and say that that's not Venus, that Venus doesn't exist, and then we only consider possible world where Venus does exist. We exclude the possibility where Venus doesn't exist. So what's left is the evening star is identical to the morning star. It's true because Venus exists. In all possible worlds, Venus does exist. Yeah. Another example of metaphysically necessary truth is gold has an atomic number of 79, and water is H2O. By the way, these two examples are directly from Saul Kripke. Not yeah. So this is not my preferred examples, but anyways. Uh, so so a way to look at the statement gold has atomic number 79 is to think of the word gold as a rigid designator. The word gold as a rigid designator, so it refers to the metallic atomic substance in our world that has an atomic number of 79. But because it's a rigid designator, it refers to the metallic substance that has atomic structure of atomic number 79 in all possible world where atoms exist and the notion of atomic numbers exists, right? So, in other words, gold has atomic number 79 is a true, not just true in this world, but true in all possible world in which, you know, atoms exist. That atomic number, the atoms of a kind of atomic number 79 exist. Then we would say that that's gold. And so gold has atomic number 79 is true, but it's not just true, but it's necessary true because it's true in all possible worlds. So ergo it follows that gold has atomic number 79 is a metaphysically necessary truth. Okay? Let's look at the example of water is H2O. Same kind of trick that we do with gold, right? We take water to be a rigid designator, and since it's a rigid designator, it's referring to a atomic structure in our world, namely H2O. But since water is a rigid designator, it refers to the same type of atomic structure in every possible world where water exists. In other words, the word water refers to all the other atomic structures in all the other possible worlds where H2O exists. So, in other words, water is H2O. It's true in all the other possible worlds as well. If water is H2O, if water is H2O, this statement is true in all possible worlds, then ergo must be metaphysically true. It must be necessary true, right? So water is H2O is not just true, but metaphysically true, or is true and necessary true, and because it's necessary true, and it's got to do with like identity and substances or essences about what is to be water, then this is also metaphysical truth. It's a metaphysical truth that water is H2O. So the conclusion is that in all these examples are metaphysical truth that are a priori truth, namely truth that are gained by experience, but are also true in all possible worlds in which the designator refers. Anyways, that's pretty much it. So this concludes the lecture on what is metaphysical truth.